There we go. Hello, there it is. Welcome to the She Method Masterclass. I am so excited that you're here. And if you haven't already and you're here live, go ahead and let us know where you're coming in from in the chat. We have Anchorage, Alaska, Lincoln, Nebraska. It's like I'm rhyming. Kitchener, Ontario. I get easily amused. London, UK, but grew up in the US, Los Angeles. And also, no, there is not a worksheet. Not this time. There is your notebook and probably some of you some notes on your phone. But no worksheet this time around. So we're going to be digging right into today. And my major goal for you today is to shift from you working your ass off by doing the most and pushing the hardest to preparing for the thing you actually want. This is the shift. I already saw some like, yes, that's what I want. This is a big deal because how many of you also learned that the way to achieve anything you want is just to work really hard? You just have to work hard. You just have to work hard. It's okay. You just have to work harder. You don't have what you want yet, just work a little bit harder, put a little bit more time in, sleep a little bit less. You sleep when you're dead and work harder and you work harder. And if you look around at the people in your life who are working their ass off, if working harder was the answer, we would all be billionaires by now, right? We would all have very easy, smooth sailing relationships. We would be able to tap into our creative flow really easily all the time without any hiccups. We'd be able to communicate effortlessly. We wouldn't have PMS. We wouldn't have cramps. We wouldn't have high symptoms days. But the reality is this is not how we live because of the world that we live in. Now, I am a big proponent for making big change in the world. And the reality is you can't make big change in the world if you can barely get off the couch because you have driven yourself into the ground. And when I say driven yourself into, I want to correct myself actually, because that is language that is very accusatory of us. You have been driven into the ground because of societal expectations and the very, very lackluster methodologies that we've learned about putting things into place to achieve our goals. I've spent the better part of 10 years recovering from that method. Okay. But before we get into that, I want you to close your tabs, turn off your notifications, put your phone on and devices on airplane mode. I know some of you are like, but what about all the TikToks I'm going to have to comment on while you're talking? They will be there. I promise. They're not going anywhere. And I know this firsthand because I also like to move. That's why I told you at the beginning, grab a pen or a hair tie or whatever you're going to fidget with so that you can pay attention in between writing notes down. You are going to want to write notes on this because there is so much information that has been twisted the wrong way for us. And so I want to make sure that you get it straight today. And if you have questions, drop the questions in the chat box throughout the conversation today, the masterclass today, and I will answer those questions at the end. So if you're watching the replay, at the end, there will be some questions that I answer, as well as you're welcome to obviously always email us or DM us on Instagram. DM us on Instagram is probably the best bet. And then if you would like to, tag me on social media at Rules and Rebellion. You can take a screenshot now if you want, and share with the world that you're here learning about how to not to be in burnout, anti-burnout strategies. And if you don't do it now, you can do it later, but here we are. And tag us at Rules and Rebellion, and I will share and shout out your account if that's what you would like. If you don't want to do that, then I will make sure just to privately thank you. But obviously, the more people who know this, we're going to be living in a better world where more of the things we need are more easily accessible. So thank you for being here. So let's real quickly make sure you are in the right place. You're in the right place if you want to feel excited about setting and achieving goals, but want a different approach than just working an ungodly amount of hours on it and hoping and praying eventually it all works out. You are in the right place if you are open to new ways of thinking, even if you feel like you've heard similar concepts before and you refuse to settle for mediocrity in your life or your business. And you are in the right place if you are someone who has a complicated life, who has complexities that no one else seems to understand. And there's not been a one-size-fits-all strategy that you've actually been able to utilize and see and feel the way you want to feel. All right. So if that is where you are, let us know. Yes, I'm in the right place. I'm hanging out. I'm here for the whole ride. And then let me know if you're in the wrong place, if you are not interested in changing your life in a manageable way that allows you to feel good and not chase perfection. You're not in the right place if you're looking for a quick fix pill that will make it all go away overnight. Okay, that's not how we didn't get there this way. We're not going to get to the next season of relief that way. You're in the wrong place if you don't like free information that you can immediately plug into your life. Like today, you can plug it in. That even though it's free, it will still provide life-altering light bulb moments and ahas for you and more things than you've actually ever paid for. And then you also hate getting invited to ways to work with us or deeper in these concepts, which I will be doing at the end. And then by the end of this masterclass, I'm going to be opening the doors to the pre-sale to literally the most popular event that we have. And it is my favorite event all year long because it is the catalyst for so many of our clients launching into the season of life that is no burnout, that is no much less anxiety and much more ease and flow into their experience. So at the end, I'll be talking to you about the Bold to Become a You workshop, and you're going to get a special little deal for being here at the masterclass for it. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the psychology behind our trauma-informed framework for setting goals and achieving them, and why it leads to mind-blowing momentum without the burnout. We're going to be talking about the 3 key things you need to do in order to achieve your goals, even with your limited capacity, the chaos that is your life sometimes, and the unpredictability of your current daily experiences with your multiple unique life circumstances, which we'll dig into. And then we're also going to be talking about some of the common mistakes that you could be making in your to-do list that are costing you time, peace, and even money, just because they did not give you the strategy that worked for you. They gave you the strategy that worked for them. And I don't know if you're like them, but I can see that you're not, because you're not a white, hetero, cisgender, Christian, wealthy white man. So if that is not you, then the strategy that you have been following and have been told should work for you is never going to work for you, which is why we're all here. So let's get into it. For those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Tasha. And if you just ended up here because you saw a reel or you found my podcast, let me briefly tell you why I'm qualified to teach this today. I spent 14 years in direct sales after growing up in my family's business as the oldest daughter of 4, who also are the oldest daughters in this room. And in those 14 years, I built a multi-million-dollar team, first 6-figure business, and also used the hustle, nonstop, work the most to prove you're the best method to achieving goals, and ended up bedbound, and I lost almost everything. When I ended up bedbound after doing all of that, after all the things I had been told to do for all the years, I was pissed. And I spent the last 10 years figuring out why this happens to so many beautiful women with brilliant brains and incredible creativity and incredible gifts to give to the world. And so the long-term impact of using the hustle and grind approach is always going to be that you feel less and less capable. You are taking fewer and fewer healthy risks, and ultimately not trusting yourself and not living the creative and bold life you were meant to live. And if that feels like it's relevant, let me know in the chat as well, because this is the mission that we have, is helping those people who relate with that to move into a different direction, to a different strategy, to a different hemisphere, just in terms of how their life is functioning. So those of you who don't know, Brandon is my husband of 15 years and business partner as of 4 years ago. And we were both in survival mode for over a decade, trying to keep our family together and financially our heads above water. And in that journey, we discovered there were practical and simple ways to reach a goal that were more direct and less exhausting than what we had learned. And then I extracted the lessons that we learned from the back end and turned them into, and figured out there are just 3 factors that are now our current anti-burnout strategy whenever we're working with our clients, when we're working with ourselves. And we used it to get rid of 90% of our stuff, travel around the country full time with our 2 unschooled kids. So that's what we were doing before we got to Portland last year. We were traveling full time. And then we also used it to build the coaching business we have now. And this is the system we use with all of our clients to create the shortest path to their creative goals, their relationship goals, business and self-care goals. Everything that you want, big and small, tangible, intangible, is going to be created by using this 3-part strategy. And you can do it without burning yourself out. And I'm so excited to give you that exact strategy today that we use for our business and our own family. What you're going to discover, and this is going to be somewhat irritating for you if you're like me, you were already doing the 3 things we're talking about today. Okay, you're already doing them. So I want you to know that if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, like I have to learn this whole 3-part strategy, like it's going to be so complicated, it's going to be so overwhelming, you're already doing these things. You just didn't know it. And now you can stop floating around trying to research yourself to death, trying to figure out how to get the next answer, because you're already doing them. We're just going to make sure that you're focused in on these 3 things and using your time and energy for those 3. Okay. So to some degree, you've used them to accomplish some of the lifestyle and business success, the creative success, the relationship success you've already experienced. So today isn't about having to learn a whole bunch of new stuff from scratch. It's about you using the foundation you have and building up these 3 towers with a rock solid foundation that makes you unstoppable. Okay. And your desired success truly, truly inevitable. I'm telling you this, that if you do these 3 things, if you focus on these 3 factors and you get clear on what those are, it is impossible for you to not succeed with what you want. You have to be willing to do the things, which can be some of the problem. We're going to be talking about how to make that easier for yourself today as well. Okay, before we dive in, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, and 10 being 100% sure, how confident are you in reaching your goals this year? Now, you can send it to the group in the chat. You can send it privately to me. You can just write it down and pretend that you're not really here, whatever you want. There's no judgment. This is not about, and this is, you're going to hear me say this a lot. This is not about the right answer or the wrong answer, or you're going to be comparing to somebody else. This is your own journey. Okay. 6.83. Teresa, I love you. So specific. All right. How confident are you? Most people usually are at a 3 or 4, if not less, when they come to this workshop. So if you are not a 6.83, I want to out Teresa. She's been to this workshop before, so she knows a little bit about what we're talking about today. Although Teresa, you'll be impressed with my science, my neuroscience that I'm bringing today to the event. Okay. Okay. So drop that in, and then we're going to get into it. So the SHE method is what it's called. And although I am a huge fan of women, it is not gender specific. This is truly just for any person who wants to achieve anything. It just happens to be that it chose the better of the things. The SHE is the difference between a good driver and a not good driver is skill, right? If you're looking at there, oh, I forgot to tell you something. Let me go back. Did anybody see in my story sequence yesterday, the picture of all the iconic authors and singers and athletes that were there? Okay, let me show you who we're talking about, because this is an important thing we're going to be talking about throughout this. Share screen. This one right here. Bam. You know these faces, right? You know who these people are. At least some of them are. You know Rihanna and Brene Brown and Abby Wambach and Taylor and Beyonce and Maya Angelou and Simone Biles. And that right there in the red shirt is Sarah Blakely. These are iconic people, iconic figures in their industry. They are either top of their game musically, they are entrepreneurs, they are authors, they have had to overcome challenges and have had to set goals over and over and over again to achieve the things that they have achieved. And we're going to be using this group of women that I think we all can relate to in some way, of having a dream and having also the complicated experience of living a life in this world as a woman, as a person who is not that cisgendered, Christian, healthy, wealthy, rich white man. And we're going to be talking about that because that matters. So this is the picture we're going to keep coming back to. If you want to do a screenshot, you're welcome to see who we're talking about. Put that on there so you can see when we're talking about the 3 different parts of the strategy. Ready? Done? Let me know if you're done. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So the things that these icons have had to do is, 1, develop skills. S is for skills. These are, and this sounds like, well, this is so unsexy. Yes, I know it's unsexy, but success is not sexy most of the time until you're already on stage making billions of dollars. Okay. So here's the deal. We're going to not worry about being sexy until we actually can get ourselves out of bed and not feel like we're crawling from one place to another. So examples of skills from our icons. All right. Singing, right? Any of us can sing. I'm going to do you the best gift I can give you and not sing right now, but I can physically make myself sing. But in order to be iconic in your ability to sing, you have to develop specific skills. So specifically, singers had to learn how to sing in tune, with a range, with magnetic energy. They had to practice and develop stage performance as a skill. What does it look like to have a skilled stage performance? And also how to manage energy, the skill of managing energy, the skill of rest and boundaries with their voice and in their environment. Storytelling. If you're an author, you have to learn how to develop, anybody can tell a story. Those of us who are long storytellers can improve your skill at storytelling skill by practicing the skill of using the practice of writing regularly, right? Compelling, creative use of words and imagery, effectively conveying a lesson or a concept with your writing. These are skills. Soccer or gymnast, faster, more agile, grace, handling the ball, precision and body movement. Those are all skills that those specialties need to develop. Yes, are we all on the same page with this? We see where the pattern is. Skills. Business owner, you need to be able to sell things. And that's a skill. That's not a thing that you just grow up with, you just have. And so if you are not selling and you have a business, You have to practice the skill of learning how to sell, solving a problem for someone else in a unique way, having an effective delivery of your transformation in your business, storytelling, but also with the financial management aspect of it. You can have a business, sell all you want, but if you can't manage the money, the skill of managing money is going to make you more effective as the business owner. Okay, so we got the concept, right? Skill is just literally the definition of a skill, the ability to do something well. The ability to do something well. So you can do something or you can do something well. And the doing it well part is when it becomes a skill that you've mastered or that you are mastering or developing. Where are my gifted and talented people? Who had the gifted and talented classes when they were young? Yeah. Who was in the AP honors class or the advanced math or the advanced English or the advanced writing? There you are. I see you. And here's why that is biting you in the ass as an adult. You didn't get a chance to learn how to learn. When you were 7, 8, 12, 14, you didn't have the struggles that the average human was having. We're like, well, this didn't go well, so I have to figure out how to show up again. That resilience of like, it didn't go well the first time, I'm going to show up a second time, a third time, because it all just came easy to you. And because that some things became easy to you and you were recognized and praised for those things, that became the thing that you poured all your energy into. Because why would you go do something that you feel shitty about when there's someone telling you you're a badass over here, right? So here's what's really important for you to take away from this is that you didn't learn how to do something. That's not your fault. You just didn't get that lesson. Like that wasn't something that our parents knew how to teach us. And so because we seem to have gotten our shit locked down earlier than the siblings or the other people in our lives. And so understanding that the number one problem for perfectionists when it comes to the psychological impact of learning skills is that you have a tendency to learn a lot. So you'll read a lot. You'll do a lot of research. Who are my research hoarders in here? You're going to read every article. You're going to look it up on TikTok. You're going to listen to every podcast. You're going to have all the audiobooks. You're going to attend every possible potential information session. And then you're going to consume more because you don't quite know just quite enough. And you're not going to take action because you don't know everything about the topic. And so you're just going to keep collecting a little bit more information because you're sure there's something out there that's going to make it even easier for you to do the thing. I am saying this as someone who did this for so many years, and I still can fall into this trap when I'm learning something new. So you have a tendency to learn a lot and we're wicked smart, are well-versed in your areas of interest. ADHD perfectionists, hyperfixations, heyo. But the information is not the same as skills. And the shift that we need to make when you're a recovering perfectionist is that you have to shift from learning a lot to actually implementing, integrating those things into their life. This is actually one of the number one reasons our private coaching clients hire us, because they know a lot and they need help putting it into their day-to-day life and integrating the habits and the skills into their life. Common mistake is believing that knowing a lot is key to your goals. And it's actually not. You could have two people standing right next to each other. One has like 80 units of knowledge. I don't know what the hell that is, but 80 units of knowledge and doesn't take any action or takes like two steps forward. This person has 40 units of knowledge and runs forward at 10 times faster. This person's going to win because they're going to be learning this in real time and having hands-on, tangible, real-life experiences with the information and gaining more information and effectiveness assessment on the way. So when you know what you want, when you can answer, what do I want? What do I need? Then you can plug in time and energy to developing the skills to do that. So if you want to be a business owner, you want to be a successful artist, you want to be a musician, you have to plug in the time and energy, not just reading a book about how to sing, not just reading a book about how to create social media content. What are the skills that you need to have the thing that you want? And this doesn't have to be business or financially related. It can be relationships too. If you want to have deeper connected relationships, you need to work on your communication skills. You need to work on your boundaries. You need to work on how to say the hard things, how to have hard conversations. So no matter what it is that you want, the thing that you want requires you to develop skills, not just read about them, not just hear people talking about them, but actually integrate them with action, forward motion, where you can troubleshoot and play with the actual tangibility of that action moving forward. So you can't get there without specific skills. Mastering a skill requires you not to master it at the beginning. This is the other problem. Problem number 2 with perfectionists. Because we didn't learn how to learn, when we do something new and it doesn't work the first time, fuck it. It's not me. This isn't for me. I'm supposed to do this. I should already have this figured out. I should have done this by now. I'm so old. Like I should have done this 20 years ago. This cycle of fight or flight kicks in because your anxiety of not being able to do it right away, because that's how you spent so much of your time. And you never taught that your nervous system reacting in a small way was a way for you to be reflective. Instead, you say, well, that didn't work. Fuck that. I'm going to go over this thing that I actually like and that I already know how to do. And so many of us have shortchanged ourselves because we didn't think that we could learn something, because we didn't learn it as fast as we thought we were supposed to, as we should. And so the perfectionism problem number 2, the common mistake is that you have to be good at something right when you start it if you want to be good at it at all. My friends, that is literally the opposite direction of how this works. And I would tell you, it's something that takes practice. It takes a lot of nervous system regulation to decide that you're going to develop a skill. But here's what you need to take away from this problem. In order to be good or skilled at anything, you have to practice it a lot. Repetition with assessment is important. So if you want to develop a skill, you need to do it over and over again, but not just do it over and over again badly, because you're not going to get better. If you write shitty stories, 20 shitty stories, if you don't stop to assess what went well, what didn't go well, you're going to write 100 more shitty stories. And so it's the repetition of the effort, but then also pausing, being calm enough to calm down, to hold still, to pause and say, what was effective and ineffective about this process? What went well? What didn't go well? What did I get? What did I not get? And that vulnerability is really challenging for a lot of us, especially for an environment where other people are watching us in this learning process, which is why so many of you may have tried things in the past and then stopped because somebody was giving you feedback that you didn't ask for, or gave you feedback that you interpreted as a personal critique. And I want you to know that you are not alone. That is the natural process of being a recovering perfectionist and someone who's living in this world. But what you do need to know is that you can get yourself out of that fight or flight mode with nervous system regulation. It's one of the skills that everybody has to have, no matter what your goals are. You have to be, if you want to be a functioning human in this world, you're going to need to learn nervous system regulation. And this is just how your body can calm from the fight or flight state to the restore and rest state, the rest and digest state. And this is the catalyst for so many things that you want to be different in your life. So we're going to talk more about that throughout today's masterclass. Okay. So you may know what you want right now, but you have no idea what skills you need to get there. And so if it's something like to be calm or to have more fun or to be more available for friendships that are actually fulfilling to you, this is one of the things we do in the very first day of the Boldly Becoming You workshop. Is I go into this deep. We spend 3 hours that day digging into what do you want, what you need, how that actually looks for you, and what it is that's going to be necessary for you to develop that. The entire SHE method is broken down into, I think it's like an 18-page workbook at this point for these 2 days event. And we go through and figure out what specific skills that you want to focus on for your goals and each of the goals that you have. And so what I'm going to do for you today is give you one homework. I'm actually going to give you 3 homework assignments, but this is the first one of the day. One is identify one skill that you can acquire with the least amount of effort that is related to one of your goals. Just identify one skill. What is one of your goals? Relationships, creative, business, whatever it is. What is one skill that you can acquire with the least amount of effort that is related to one of your goals? That's a homework. And then answer the question, what makes it feel hard or challenging or unrealistic? Okay. All right. Moving on to habits. If you have, let me look in here real quick to see if there are any questions. Okay, no questions so far. Remember, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. H is for habits in the SHE method. Now, if you're like me, you probably, I even teach this and I'm like, roll my eyes, like if I hear one more fucking word about habits. But here's the thing, habits really are how we live our life. Our brain is wired to not have to think about every micro decision we have to make every day. So you already have habits, right? You have habits. You brush your teeth most days, for probably around the same time. You eat, you have your own personal routines. Those are habits. Routines are just made up of multiple habits. And we've all heard that good habits are crucial and non-negotiable even to achieve success. So some examples of the icons habits, let's just revisit them because let's just talk about what they had to do to get there. All right. So in order for these badasses to achieve the success that they've achieved, they had to practice skills. So that's what a habit is also. It's practicing a skill. It's repeatedly doing the skill because it needs to be practiced. And a habit is something that is ongoing. So the singers needed to sing songs, right? In different ranges. They had to practice their choreography so that the habit of practicing gave them the ability to do it again and again without having to think about it. The intention of a habit is to do something to build towards an end result or to experience something regularly so that you can have that experience. And the repetition of it is what makes it a habit. So the authors had to write stories, and they had to do a lot of shitty first drafts, and they had to describe things with words, and they had to habitually be available to inspiration and figure out what their rituals for getting into that creative flow were. They even had to write when they weren't inspired. They had to show up to do the habit of writing, even when they didn't feel like it. And according to Elizabeth Gilbert, you have to do that a lot more than you think you are. So if you're an athlete or a soccer player like Abby Wambach or a gymnast like Simone Biles, you had to do cardio habitually to be able to do the thing you needed to do. You have to do routines and drills to build muscle memory. You had to do breath work to be able to maintain the endurance. You had to do visualization. This is huge. Visualization is not just a woo-woo concept. It's science-based. And we've heard athletes talk about this forever. Visualization for these athletes allows them to require their bodies to have less skill. To some degree, athletes have been visualizing for decades. And we're going to be talking about the study that I found that is blowing my mind, that I hope will blow your mind as well. So there was a study. They wanted to see if people could get stronger just by thinking about exercising their fingers and their elbow. It's a weird choice of body parts, but it is what it is. They asked 30 healthy young people to take part. They split them into 3 groups. And they split them in 3 groups, and one group thought about moving their little finger. Another group thought about bending their elbow, and the third group didn't do any special thinking, but helped with the study. Okay. One group thought about moving their little finger. One group thought about moving their elbow, and then one group didn't do anything special thinking wise. For 12 weeks, the first 2 groups spent 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, just thinking about moving their fingers or elbows. They didn't do any actual physical training. They just thought about it. After the training, they found that the group thinking about moving their little finger got 35% stronger. 35% stronger. And the group that was thinking about bending their elbow got 13.5% stronger. And although the physical group got 50% stronger, 35% stronger just from thinking about doing a thing consistently. That is a habit worth developing, because it's not just physical, it's all the things. And if you're paying attention to our content in the last month, I've been visualizing. I'm on day 31 of visualization. I'm practicing visualization every morning because it's one of the toughest skills for me to work on. So that is just one of many studies that's coming out showing how powerful thinking about things habitually, making that a practice to think about where you want to go, is important. This is true for every goal that you have. And there is an energetic spiritual woo-woo version of this, but I'm not going to speak to that today because that is not my specialty. I am going to speak to the neuroscience of this. But real quick, I want to remind, I don't know if I said this earlier, a habit is a behavior or thought that is repeated. That's it. Did I say that earlier? That's what a habit is. A behavior or a thought that is repeated. So here are the 3 problems with our collective experience with developing the right habits. What you were taught about habits is wrong. And I would love to sugarcoat it and tell you it's not wrong some of the time. It's wrong all the time. These 3 things that are specific, they are specific rules about habits that we've learned. 21 days to create a habit, completely false, has no relevance to creating a habit whatsoever. Don't break the streak consistency. So if you do it every single day, somehow that's going to create the habit that you're looking for. It's especially tough for perfectionists. It's also impossible for the female biology to maintain that, which is why so many of us have like 1 or 2, maybe 3 good weeks, and then we fall off. Habits, the third one is habits are not hard, and they don't happen without a reason. Okay, bad habits. Bad habits are just because you're a bad person, because you don't do the right thing, and that's how that happens. The reality is you've been told that your bad habits are keeping you from reaching your goals, and in that you felt shame, guilt, and embarrassment. I've had plenty of bad habits. I was a work addict for many, many years. And I smoked and I drank and I had other things that I did that were not ideally healthy or beneficial for me. The problem with this concept is that because you've been told that your bad habits are a character flaw of who you are, it actually is creating more need for the bad habit you have, because your bad habits, all of your bad habits are actually clever coping mechanisms for you to be able to manage the stress and the lack of safety that you feel. Every single one of them. We're used to thinking about safety as like the saber-toothed tiger, but because of the world we live in, especially over the last 100, 150 years, there's way more emotional saber-toothed tigers in our lives than actual physical danger, if we're privileged enough to be in that situation. And this experience has not been talked about enough to understand that we are activated almost every 20 minutes throughout the day, depending on what we're doing and who we're around. We're going to get to environment in a minute. But if you are being told that your bad habits are bad and that you're bad for having your bad habits and you're bad for not getting rid of your bad habits faster, you're actually just staying in this cycle of repeating those bad habits and not able to make any changes, because when you are in a shame cycle, when you feel guilty, you feel like you should be doing something else, you should be further along, you should be able to do X, Y, and Z. That isn't activating your fight or flight response. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever it is, whatever your reaction to the specific trigger is. And what happens there is the prefrontal cortex, the part that makes decisions, that is problem solving, that allows you to think long term, goes offline. So you've been told for decades to quit your bad habits because you don't want to be the asshole that you've been for having the bad habits, but then also being fed the medicine that keeps you in the cycle of having the bad habits to begin with. So it's important that we understand that as recovering perfectionists, as people who have been navigating a world that is not designed for our success and for our well-being, that we're constantly trying to shape, shift, and contort into a situation that does not support your success. And that's why this masterclass is I'm so passionate about it, because you have been trying to be something that it is impossible for you to be. It's like trying to tell a turtle it should be a bear. That's not a thing. It can think all at once. It can want all at once. It can be working 70 hours a day, and it's never going to be a bear, because it's not meant to be a bear. And so we have to be understanding of what's actually happening. The other part of this that is really problematic. All right. So the first problem with this one with habits was that you were taught all the things you were taught about habits were wrong. The second one is that you were taught that your bad habits are keeping you from reaching your goals. And in reality, it's been keeping you alive and just functioning, which is an important part to get into the next part of achieving your goals. And the third problem is that you have real life circumstances that are unique to you and your real life. And because your unique life circumstances are never considered or mentioned when someone is teaching you about habits and how to achieve your goals using good habits, creating a perfect morning routine, having a good bedtime routine, getting a good sleep hygiene, making sure that you are only being influenced by the 5 most important people in the world, all these ideas. The reality is that you cannot do life and create habits the way that we've been taught with the life that you have, because your life doesn't just revolve around you want something and it just happens that way, because the world is not designed to serve you like it is the profile that we've been talking about. So this leads to massive amounts of shame and guilt that tricks you into believing something's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you. You didn't have all the information. Okay. So you kept smoking, you kept picking your nails, you kept scrolling social media with no progress, but also you kept buying more sales courses and diet programs because your bad habits were shamed. And the reality is, when you create habits of soothing and nervous system regulation, when that is the habit you actually focus on, not trying to get rid of something, but developing a soothing habit, you don't need the bad habits anymore. Your body literally doesn't seek them out. When you are soothed, when you're feeling safe, the things that you are trying to get rid of, trying to not do anymore, fall away, because you have created safety in your own body. You're not searching for something to soothe you, to get for you from one moment to the next. Okay. So is this resonating? Is this making sense to everybody? Let me know in the chat what's resonating with you so far. If this is feeling like it's landing with you, how's it going? Okay. Now we have an entire course called Habit Magic, where we walk you through how to develop habits in your real life using your unique life circumstances. So when I say unique life circumstances, I'm talking about like ADHD, chronic illness. You have kids that you take care of. You have parents that you take care of. You are neurospicy. You have a demanding job that is requiring a lot of your energy. There's a million things that make your life more complex and also multifaceted than somebody else. All right. So our Habit Magic course will walk you through all of that. But here's the breakdown of how habits work: motivation, ability, and prompt. You need these 3 things to make a habit work. But what happens when you don't have the ability that other people have to achieve a goal? Then you beat yourself up about it. I should just be able to do it anyway. Well, they did it. They found a way through. You've been told if you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen. You want to see me go off on a rant? Tell me that again. And so the reality is that we don't all have the same equal access to resources, and we didn't have the same equal access to the way we think about ourselves and the way our nervous system responds and reacts to the world around us. We were trained in a certain way, whether it was intentional or not. So it's important to understand that when you are working through achieving goals, it is innately stressful. If it doesn't have an element of stress, then it's not a goal, it's just a to-do item on your list. And so you need to understand that goals are innately stressful. So setting goals means you have to have something to help you. You have to have some habits in place to help you navigate the stress you're going to be inducing on yourself to the goal. And incorporating nervous system regulation practices into your day-to-day life is going to significantly decrease the amount of time it takes you to get to where you want to go. So real quick, these are 2 habits. This is a bonus I'm just throwing here for you. There are 2 habits that are crucial for anyone with goals, but especially those of us recovering from perfectionism. Rest, learning how to rest. And resting is not sitting there, not doing anything, thinking about what you should be doing. That is not rest. Okay. Think about who you should be calling, who you should be taking care of, what you should have done before you rest, how you don't actually deserve to rest. You didn't get enough done today. That's not rest. Resting is guilt-free, shame-free relief and allowing your body, mind, and spirit to restore. And then regulation, like I mentioned before, nervous system regulation, no matter who you are in the world, if you do not have nervous system regulation as a habit, as a skill that you have developed, it is going to be harder for you, sometimes by a lot, to achieve the things you wanted to achieve. When you can't do the habits and the skills perfectly, then your fight or flight response is going to kick in. The only way to get out of that cycle is to regulate your nervous system. And then you can be consistent in a lot of things that you haven't believed you've been able to be consistent with. You seeing the theme here? Your nervous system needs to be addressed to achieve your goals. All right, that's bottom line across the board. But in case you aren't convinced yet, let's dig into environment. Now you can rewrite your story of bad habits, by the way. Go back to your history of bad habits and your past failures because you were given the wrong directions. That's what I forgot to give you your homework for habits. So one of your homework assignments for habits is identify what your bad habits were, maybe 1 or 2 of them that you've had in the past or that you currently feel like you have. Reframe them as soothing. You're going to reframe your bad habits as a soothing mechanism, and you're going to congratulate yourself on being so fucking clever to create an opportunity for yourself to move from one stressful moment to the next, that you're just amazed at how industrious you are. Every bad habit you have was just a mechanism to get to the next moment so that you can keep going. And I'm going to ask you to write just a little, I mean, if you want to, I'll make this a bonus homework because this is kind of asking a lot. I'm going to ask you to write a little thank you note to yourself for finding some way to get where you are right now. You did it. You got here. And that wouldn't have happened had you not have those coping mechanisms. Okay. All right. E, we're definitely going over 45 minutes. Your brain's job is not to achieve lofty goals or have a positive impact on your kids or your community or the world. Your brain is only interested in surviving, and it's still the main mode of operation every day. Your brain's job all day long is looking for danger, scanning and clocking. That's new, that's dangerous, that's scary, don't do that. Don't go over there, don't lean over that, don't let them fall down, all of these things. Examples of environmental factors from our icons again. If you're a singer, you have to have an environment where you can sing. If you have an environment where you're not allowed to be loud, where you can't express yourself, you're not gonna be able to sing. You can't become an iconic singer, at least not in that environment. If you are someone who is an author, you had to learn how to cultivate an environment that supported your storytelling and be compassionate and supportive of the first 100 shitty drafts of things. And when you are a soccer player or a gymnast, you needed to have equipment in your area to be able to do it. We've seen tons of studies when schools have equipment for their athletics and schools that don't, the schools with the equipment do better because they have the equipment to help them facilitate the skills and the drills and all of the lessons that they need to learn. But they also needed all 3 of these: singers, storytellers, gymnasts, athletes, business owners, all need people reminding them of where they're going, because you're going to have hard days, right? As an athlete, you're going to have days where your body, you just can't push, you can't get the shots that you had been getting the day before. You can't land that flip tumble tuck, whatever it is. I'm not a gymnast, whatever it is they had to land, they couldn't land it. They needed someone to remind them that this is why you're doing this. This is important enough for you to get through this hard moment, that it's going to be better, that you're going to get better, that you're going to feel better. So your environment is the third part of the three-part strategy. The SHE method. E is for environment. Your environment is what you see, hear, feel, and who you do it with. Your environment is what you see, hear, feel, and who you do it with. Your environment, people, places, things, influences everything about who you are, what you do, and how you perceive yourself. It is a huge factor, and it is probably the least commonly discussed when it comes to people's success. The people that we're used to seeing on stages, giving speeches to hundreds of thousands of people, have a full staff so that all they have to do is bring their magic to that stage, bring their message and their skills and their practices that they've brought to this moment. Think about when, I'm going to give you a real life example that's pretty recent. Think about when you've gone on vacation. How many of you have gone on a vacation? To the beach, to the mountains, you've gone somewhere other than your home to have an experience that is enjoyable, theoretically relaxing, only if you don't have kids. And then you're going to actually be in an environment that completely looks different than your own home, right? When you're in that environment, you have a completely different experience. It may, for if you're like me, it takes a couple of days for you to actually unwind and kind of get yourself settled and slow down a little bit. And then you're looking at the ocean. And so you're thinking about how beautiful it is. And you're thinking about how incredible it is to have your feet in the sand. Or if you're on the mountains, you're thinking about how incredible it is that these trees have been here for hundreds of years. And your thoughts are different because you're having a different experience in your environment, right? So I want you to go back to a month and a half ago during Christmas time. There was Christmas shit everywhere. Like you can't get away from red and green here in the US. And there's pictures of Santa and trees and just all the sales and the sales and the sales. It's everywhere. So you didn't have a choice to not think about it because it was there. They made sure you were not going to forget about their sales or this holiday season that we're in, right? Your environment influenced how you thought and what you thought about it. This is the same as your normal everyday life. What is in your environment is constantly influencing what it is that you think about, what it is that you think is possible, where your attention goes, and how you feel about yourself. The less supportive your environment is with your goals and how you want to feel and what you want to do, the harder it will be to shift and pivot from maladaptive coping mechanisms and patterns. Hear that again. The less supportive your environment is with your goals and how you want to feel and what you want to do, the harder it will be to shift from these maladaptive coping mechanisms, patterns, bad habits that you have. But the opposite is true as well. The more supportive your environment is, the more conducive your environment is to what it is that you actually want to do, how you want to live, the goals you want to achieve, the dreams and the vision that you have for yourself, for your family, for your art, for your message. The more supportive your environment is, the easier it is for you to stay in tune and moving towards that experience. So I'm going to ask you to look around your space. Here, actually, before we do that, don't even look around your space. I'm going to ask you to not judge anything. Okay. This is not about, oh, I've been doing this wrong, or this is bad. This is just saying, oh, this is data. This makes sense. Does your living space remind you of all the good times you already had in the life of ease and fun and peace in your past? Or does it tell a story to your perfectionist mind that you should be further along, less messy, more organized? Or are you looking at interacting with things that are inspiring and uplifting and supportive and expressive of where you want to go and who you want to be? The magic of this is that you get to change these things. Not everything. You can't make the entire environment exactly what you want, but you can add in more things to be more conducive to you becoming the version of yourself that is prepared for the vision that you want, for the excitement, for the enthusiasm, for the inspiration, for the adventures, for the connection. And when you adjust your environment to constantly point you towards where you want to go, your thoughts and your actions to where you want to go, it is inevitable that you'll move in that direction. Did you buy Christmas presents in December? Yeah. You know why? Because there's no way not to. There's no way not to buy Christmas shit in December. The reality is that your environment significantly impacts how you experience yourself and what you think is possible. A common mistake is ignoring or minimizing your unique life circumstances. that require specific environmental factors. I have chronic illness. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis, a bunch of other crap that came with it. And for the first couple of years that I had this and we didn't know, I was making it was so much harder for me to exist in this chronic illness because I was going up 3 flights of stairs. For someone who has chronic illness and chronic fatigue, that is a week's worth of laying in bed after that. And it can be dangerous for those of us who are not paying attention, but also thinking about things like your cycle. If you're not aware of how impactful your own 4-phase cycle is, your menstrual cycle is, it is having a huge impact on the way you think and also the way that you actually are able to take actions. If you're a caregiver, you have ADHD or the neurospicy brain, chronic illness, these are all require specific things to be operating at your best. So we're going to get real with your period. If you don't have period products, you're not going to feel real supported during your menstrual period, your menstrual cycle. So that's just, you're like, well, of course, I mean, that's just something you do, it's just something you have. Yes, but if you approached every part of your life like that I have a need right now and I'm going to take care of that need the way I'm taking care of these other needs. The difference is that we are not acknowledging needs that we have that other people haven't given us permission to acknowledge. That the world has said, you shouldn't need that because other people have exceeded those expectations. Other people have reached those goals without having to have those things. Why can't you? But the reality is there's multiple layers of unique life circumstances. I don't think anybody in here is any of just one of the things I've mentioned. You either have chronic illness and kids, or you have ADHD and chronic illness, or you have a cycle and you have ADHD. You probably have, if you're like me, all of it. You got all the things. You got all the layers. And so it's a complex process to get your environmental factors to support you and to ebb and flow. But it is non-negotiable if you want your goals to be achieved, if you want to actually achieve what you want. And identifying what those things are with physical aspects of your space, but also the relational, the people that are influencing you is really important. And for you to decide what is allowed and what is not allowed. Okay. So your common mistake, did I do that? Yes. A common mistake is ignoring or minimizing your unique life circumstances. I want to be clear, not for the sake of production, not for the purpose of you being more productive, but for because you deserve to feel like a whole fucking human being. Because you deserve to not feel like you're sacrificing one part of you for another. Your whole existence needs to be able to show up in your life. And if you're hiding or repressing or contorting to not inconvenience other people because it doesn't seem like they think it's okay for you to need these needs, that's one of the places to start. And it's got to change because you are going to stay stuck. You cannot thrive in an environment that is poisoning you constantly. And it's one of the things we help our clients with. It's, I'm sure, why a lot of you are following our content on social media, because we talk about these concepts a lot and how to get yourself more support in all the different angles and areas. All right, so your environmental homework, not to be confused with like ecosystems, but your personal environment homework. Name 3 things you see in your space right now. If that thing could talk and deliver a reminder to you to do, be, or think something, what would it might say? Identify 3 things in your space that you see. And if that thing could talk and remind you to do, be, or think something, what would it might say? Again, reminding you, this is not about judgment. But I do want you to say that if you see something and you think that thing reminds you that you're an asshole, you need to write that down. Because a lot of you think there's shit that's telling you you're an asshole. Like for me, for a long time, I had a stack of not even half used, 2 pages used in journals and like 6 of them. That was constantly telling me you failed. You're an asshole. You can't get it done. You can't even write it in a journal by yourself. That kind of stuff. And you're seeing this stuff everywhere and not even clocking because your brain's just automatically telling, yep, you failed. Yep, you failed. Yep, you failed, in the background of you just trying to get from one side of the room to the other. All right. When your environment is dripping with support and encouragement and encouraging you to take healthy risks, and it also requires and supports your safety and your soothing and fun, you're more likely to succeed in big and small ways. And you deserve that. So I hope that today's conversation has allowed you to realize that you're not the idiot or the jerk or the moron that you've been told or you've been thinking you are. And actually, you're brilliant and you've done amazing things to get to right here, but now you can do things that'll make it easier for you to get to the next place. So just to recap, today we covered common mistakes. Information is not the same as skills. You may have a lot of information. Stop buying more books. You don't need more books. You need to start implementing some of these things, okay? If you lack the skills you need to achieve your goals, you're not going to get much further than you already have. So you just have to start doing it. In order to do that, you need to do nervous system regulation so that you don't melt down every time something doesn't happen the right way the first time, okay? Another common mistakes we talked about are the 3 ideas about habits that we were taught that are wrong. 21 days to create a habit. That's not real. It's based on a marketing study that had nothing to do with habit development in the 60s. Don't break the streak consistently. So this, like, maintaining the obsession with a streak every day or it doesn't count. That's really counterproductive and a huge mistake for us trying to apply habits into our lives. And then habits are not hard, and that you should just stop your bad habits. Really helpful information. Thank you, guys. And then the other common mistake is ignoring or minimizing your unique life circumstances and the environment that you're living in as an inconsequential factor for you to be able to achieve your goals. We also covered why achieving goals for recovering perfectionists, people with ADHD and other unique life circumstances like caregiving, chronic illness, et cetera, are not easy, not as easy as they think, or they've been telling us it should be, and how you can still have everything you want when you see and use the SHE method and take care of your nervous system at the same time. When you focus on the skills and the habits and the environment, when you wake up and decide on the day, what am I doing today? What skill am I working on? What habit am I going to keep fine tuning? What environmental factor can I cultivate or shift to change just a little bit to be more supportive of where I want to go and the person I want to be? You are eventually going to be launched into the lifestyle that you want, the business that you want, the creative expression that you want. And that's what happened with the icons that we talked about. The authors and the writers and the celebrities that we see having and living a life of luxury. I'm not saying that all of us or any of us want to actually have that experience where we're traveling and have millions of people chasing us with paparazzi. I'm not saying that that's the experience, but my point is that if they can do that, whatever your goal is, you focus on taking care of your nervous system that will allow you to then develop these other 3 parts. You can have whatever you want. You can have whatever you want. The icons crowded out their self-doubt and they leaned on their village, the people around them, and they plucked people out of their village and said, you do not belong here because you are not letting me, helping me get to where I want to go. And they allowed them to get themselves to be supported and bolstered, and they asked for help in safe environments because they felt safe enough to do so. And they consistently had reminders and focused on the future goals and the vision every day for hours a day. Energetically, mentally, emotionally, financially, a lot of them had to invest a lot to be able to do that. It's not that you aren't motivated, it's that you don't have a life that's supporting you being forward focusing. It's that you have situations in your life that have convinced you that this is a limitation rather than just a problem to solve, just a thing to consider, just a factor to put into the strategy. And we have to do it differently. If we have kids, we have chronic illness, it's not going to look the same, it's not going to feel the same, but you can still achieve the same, and oftentimes much more effective, because we have to do it a little bit slower because that's how our lives require us, and we're way more intentional. You can do this. You can have the thing that you want. I'm living proof. I was bedbound 10 years ago. I'm chasing waterfalls. I'm going to go on an 8-mile hike this year to see 10 waterfalls because I used this method to get there. My kids have overcome being bullied and being criticized and thriving in their artistry and in their social groups. Brandon has overcome alcohol addiction and leaned into creating art on a regular basis, all based on this method. And our family's never been closer and more connected. This is available to you. And it starts with being really clear with what you want. Really clear on what you want. What do you want? What do you want your family to be like? What do you want your day-to-day life experience to be like? What do you want to put out into the world? What is your message? What is your art? What is your purpose? What is your unique flavor of experiencing the human existence, the human condition? When you get clear on what you want, then it's just a matter of filtering in skills, habits, and environmental factors. That's it. We just do that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all and 10 being so sure, how confident are you now to reach your goals this year? while you're doing that, you know everything you need to know to make 2024 a dream come true, literally. And what I want you to do is really lean into that last part of the SHE method we covered by inviting you to the Boldly Becoming You workshop that I'm hosting on February 24th and 25th. If you've been to this workshop, let us know in the chat how much you loved it. Man, do I love to see those numbers increasing. Yes, yes. If you've been to the Boldly Becoming You workshop, please let the others know in this why you keep coming back to it, because it is a game changer. If you are familiar with vision boards, let me know that in the chat as well. Vision boards have been something that have been around for decades, but the way that we're used to seeing vision boards is this pretty shrine of pretty pictures that you hope one day will happen if you just keep working hard at it, or you just sit and think about it hard time. Just think about those things happening. And the reality is it requires action, okay? But also it requires the vision that you see to be truly, truly what you want and to meet you where you are. If you are someone who is barely hanging on because your nervous system is so chronically dysregulated, setting a goal to take over some kind of empire is probably not going to make you feel safe and cozy to be able to take action. It's going to be too big. And so one of the things we do in the Boldly Becoming You workshop is we walk you through how to set goals for where you are in terms of stepping yourself up so that you can expand your capacity without overwhelming your nervous system, so that you can build the stepping stones to bigger goals and bigger dreams that allow you to get there without feeling paralyzed and shutting down. And I went through all three of the stages that I walk you through in this workshop. I was at the place where I just needed to be able to walk again. I just wanted to be able to stay awake and not have to close down and not watch movies with my kids because it was too much stimulation. I went through that stage, and I set goals to recover physically, to be able to just walk without having to use a wheelchair. And then once I was walking and I hiked up my first trail in a mountain, I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm going to set some goals that actually are more work related because I enjoy my work. And I set those goals. And Brandon and I set goals to travel full time with the kids. I was like, oh, okay, that's a stretch, but I'm going to do it. And we did it. And my capacity grew and expanded into this past year and a half, where my goals now are to write my book finally and to go on an 8-mile hike where I can see 10 waterfalls, and I'm doing it. I'm not concerned about whether I'm going to do it or not. I know that if you do these things and you have the vision of where you want to go and you are reminded of it all day long, that you're going to hit the thing. You're going to get the place that you want to go, because it's impossible not to. It becomes inevitable. So even if you can't dream big right now, even if you just want some time to sleep and you just want some nervous system regulation practices in your day, you just want some self-care, and that feels hard enough, that goal is warranted. And go into this workshop and creating visual reminders of you if that's where you're going to bolster your environment, to point you in that direction, keep your brain going back to what's possible rather than wondering what could happen that could go wrong. If you also want to feel excited, like you want to feel excited, but you don't quite feel excited about goals because you're worried about the other shoe dropping or you're worried about burning out again, this is also the workshop for you, because I'm going to show you how to set goals that does not overwhelm you. If you have goal anxiety, it's real. If you've set goals and then you had a major loss after that, it makes sense that you're anxious about setting goals. But I've been there. I've done it. I avoided those kinds of goals for years because of that. And I've learned how to create the stepping stones so that you can actually gain the capacity to put yourself in a position to achieve whatever you want again. And then if you're already in the place where you're like, I've done the burnout cycle, I know how to do that now, I'm ready to just go, I'm ready to make my shit happen, the vision board workshop is it. Boldly Becoming You workshop, I walk you through that. So day one, real quick, day one of that workshop, I walk you through and guide you through exercises that help you create and cultivate the vision of where you want to go, what it is that you want to experience in your relationships, in your health, with your business, your art, anything that you want to have happen and exist in your life. I walk you through deep dive, real good questions, not surface questions, about what it is that's really coming from within. And we map out the skills, the habits, and the environmental factors that you could create to put yourself in that position to have that. And then the next day, we put the vision boards together. By the time you leave day 2, you already have the vision boards completed. It's all done digitally. I walk you through, I give you templates. I talk you through how to do it so that your perfectionism doesn't take over. And you leave with beautiful visuals that you can then order or print or whatever to remind you of where you're headed, of what's possible if you invest your energy, time, and space into the skills, the habits, and the environment. And then I tell you how to use them, because they're not just going to be a shrine to your future. It's going to be a tool that you use to visualize and get your brain, just like the pinky strength that increased by 35%, you're going to increase your likelihood of making that happen without having to burn yourself out. This is the anti-burnout strategy, creating the shortest path possible, using the resources that are there rather than trying to make it as hard as possible by using somebody else's strategy that wasn't for you. good news too is that it is on pre-sale. The Boldly Becoming You workshop is usually $197, and you can get $100 off during pre-sale. So it's only $97 US. And I'm going to send that link out today, but you can DM me on Instagram. And for the first 10 people who join this registration period, you're also going to get Regulated AF, which is our 10-day nervous system regulation practice for free. So you'll get this 10 regulation practices so you can start practicing right away. 10 different techniques, 10 videos between Brandon and I think there's actually 11 videos because he and I both do one exercise differently. And we send those to you. And that's usually a $25 value, but you're going to be able to get that for free when you register for the Boldly Becoming You workshop. So again, that's February 24th and 25th. What questions do you have? I don't see any questions on here. Do I need to scroll up? Let me see. You have questions about the SHE method. You have a question about specific goals that you have. You want some help on identifying the skills, the habit, or the environment. Yes. Teresa's been crushing it since the Boldly Becoming You workshop. I love seeing these numbers. Michelle and Abby and Teresa and Tara, love, love, love. All right, good questions. Okay. How do you prioritize goals? I have so many. Great question, Robin. So the way we prioritize goals is thinking about in what order they're going to be most beneficial for you to achieve them. So because we've had a conversation recently, I know a little bit more. I'm just going to dive in where I think that's going. In order for you to build a business, but also maintain and recover health, take care of your health, you have to prioritize the health and self-care practices and get those habitually into your life and cultivate the environment that's going to make it easier for you to do that so that you have capacity to do things that are new. So when you try to do too many new things at once, especially if you have a chronically dysregulated nervous system shuts down and it sends inflammation into your body. And then our chronic symptoms flare. And if you're in your luteal phase, it flares even more. And so then you think, well, I'm not meant to do this. This isn't for me. I can't do this. And so it's really important that you understand that the nervous system regulation practices are the root of all of these other things happening. So it's self-care and health and all of those things that make this crucial piece. And that has to be the first thing. And then as you develop those, you actually can easily start seeing what the next steps are. Which one is I'm going to play a little bit here, because one, you need some diversity. You can't all focus on one goal. I know we've all been told you need to focus on one goal, but most of us, at least in our community, I think it's because we're all neurospicy. One goal is going to kill the brain. It's going to kill the creativity. So you could have 2 or 3 goals that you're working on, and it's just in deciding which one's going to get your energy and attention. We do a lot of cycle syncing content within our community, where understanding that there are certain phases of your cycle that are more effective for certain projects. And so you use that natural energy flow. So again, you're not forcing yourself to use energy that doesn't exist naturally. So there's lots of factors, but your nervous system regulation, understanding your cycle, if it is something that is still happening, and then looking at where you can start with low impact and low stakes in terms of stretching yourself towards goals. Is that helpful? Okay, awesome. How to get through the burnout period? Great question. So this is a hard answer because you're not going to like it. It's going to require you to disappoint a lot of people. It's also going to require you to get comfortable with not doing a whole lot of things. So if you are financially capable of shutting down anything that is not necessary, that would be the first step. Because the reality is, if you are actively in burnout, if you don't drastically change the impact that your body is perceiving in terms of demand and output, you're not going to get anywhere. If you don't drastically change the output that you have when you fall into burnout, you can't change that. This is an energetic input output thing with vitamins and nutrients, with minerals, with sunlight, with sleep, with hydration. But also you have to get the cortisol response under control. If you don't bring down your cortisol response, nothing else you do is going to matter. If you don't regulate your nervous system, none of this gut health is going to matter, because it's going to continuously kill the gut health. And so your nervous system is truly the root cause of all of this. Or I'm sorry, the root cause, but also the root solution. And so getting through the burnout period means you have to understand, and we're actually going to have a whole podcast episode on this, and we're going to be doing a live about this, understanding that when you're in the swamp, which is the place between when you had a life that you were living and you decided, I'm going to make some changes, and the changes haven't taken place yet. The swamp is where you exist while that transition is happening. The new stuff you're doing hasn't really started to show up in your life yet as positive results, but there's old stuff that still is having residue in your life that's really exhausting. And that swamp is where a lot of us experience burnout. And we also are slowing down enough to realize how tired we really are. And so it's crucial that you understand that at that moment is when you need to push pause on anything that is absolutely unnecessary. If it's not absolutely necessary for you, like life or death, life altering experience, then you have to stop it. We shut down so many things in our family for a couple of years because we had to, or our family wouldn't have survived it. And then you start rebuilding what that is. So it is about boundaries. I mean, being in the burnout period is about boundaries and nervous system regulation. It's about lowering your stimulation, lowering about the input so that you are not demanding more output than your body actually has to give. It's like taking an empty cup and pouring it out and like, why isn't more coming out? It's empty. You got nothing. Stop trying to, like, you're just wasting your time trying to empty an empty cup. There's nothing in there. And so you have to give it time to refill. And that's a really hard thing when you're have so many expectations on you. There are people that are used to you operating a certain way in the relationship or in a community. And also it's hard for a lot of us to sit still and be still with all the feelings we've been avoiding and running from for a long time. So it's the boundaries and the sitting still and resting, replenishing your body. Hey Deb, sorry we missed you. Fully Becoming You is a great way to create a living, breathing vision board, not like other ones I've done before. Yes, Deb, I'm so glad you said that. It is different. It is not just pretty pictures. It is action oriented. The vision boards that we create in Boldly Becoming You are about making sure that it's not like I actually, they have new vision board templates on Canva. I saw it yesterday because I'm finishing up my vision boards, and I'm going to be doing a critique of how awful these vision board templates are because they're so passive and like health on the vision board. What does that tell you? Nothing. It tells you nothing, doesn't give you anything, doesn't, like, I should be healthy. What does that mean for you? There's 800 ways you can do that. So anyway, we get really specific in the vision board workshop. If you want to improve your health, we're going to get really deep and granular about what that means for you and your particular life in your unique life circumstances. So thank you for bringing that up, Deb. I'm unsure what skills I need, to be honest. Related, what if you know where you want to go, but not sure your message or how to commute your unique point of view? I know internally, but not quite sure how to explain something I'm in the process of. Probably an autistic thing and also a poet thing. It is both of those things, I think. But it's also understanding that you're not going to know until you do it like 10 more times, which is a frustrating thing, if not 100 more times. So I'm going to go to these questions. You need to know, what if you know where you want to go, but not sure your message or how to communicate your unique point of view? So there's a couple different things with this. If you know where you want to go and you don't know how to communicate your unique message, it is, I guess, my question would be, how do you think you're not communicating it now? Like, are you putting things out there for it to be received? Or is it just you're having a hard time getting it out of you onto paper or onto art or something like that? I knew internally, but I'm not quite sure how to explain something I'm in the process of. So what is your art form? Is it speaking? Is it writing? Is it paint? Is it poetry and writing? So how many drafts have you tried to do so far? Like hundreds? 2? One of the best, I wish Nicole was here. She registered, but she's going to be watching the playback. I had a writing coach for a little while last year. Hundreds. I mean, I have a small collection I'm working on. Okay, great. So what makes you think that your message is not being communicated? Because it's not how you want it to be. One of the things I learned from her, my writing coach, actually Brain introduced this initially, and then Nicole helped me put it into my art form, is that you have to just free flow, let it out, and then go back and pick it apart and pull it out. But we have such a hard time as perfectionists letting the stuff flow and it be messy and gross and shitty and grammar problems. And like I turned off when you're in Google Docs, or I think it's in Word too, where it has like the red squiggly underline when you mess up a word or it's the wrong tense or whatever. I turn that off so that I can just write, and then I'll go back eventually and edit things. It's more about for the further research of how I could merge my marketing skills and try to more practice. So do you want to sell art? Is that what you're asking? You want to sell your poetry? No? Let me put here also the link. So if you guys want to get in on that deal. For those of you who are just coming in, that link is to the $100 off and the free regulated AF that you'll get if you're part of the first 10 people who joined today. This replay will be going out this afternoon. So I'm going to go back to your original question, Abby. Sharing. Okay. I am going to say some things and just hope some of it lands for you, since it's kind of hard to message about this, but you can keep messaging. Are you talking about marketing in terms of social media? Marketing to like a publisher? So when we're talking about marketing and art, we have to do them separately initially, because one will influence the other one too negatively. Further research. I mean, yes, I'd be happy to sell books. I have a business that allows me to write more than just poetry and to merge my old skill set in. I used to lead creative teams and marketing agencies. I'm not sure what it is I do besides transformation. See, even explaining it to you feels hard. I think actually this might be autistic stuff. Here's the thing. My whole family is some version of neurodivergent, and we don't know what the actual names of all these things are, but we know that we communicate in a unique way. I don't think you should shortchange yourself that you can't explain things. I think it's just probably going to take you more words to explain it than you think it should, and or that other people maybe have given you patience for you to play with. The reality is that when you have an idea, it doesn't come out perfectly the first time or the 100th time a lot of the time. And so you want to have a business that allows you to write more than just poetry and to merge your old skill set in leading creative teams and marketing agencies. So here are some questions I would ask you to like mull on. What does someone who works with you, what are they able to do after they work with you? How does their life change or their business change? What is the immediate short-term impact? And then what are the long-term impact of having made those changes according to the work that you've done with them? And then another question to ask is, what is something that you do differently that maybe other people in your field or your industry don't do that way? Or is there a unique angle that you have on it that you're confused or not sure why other people aren't seeing it this way? And then looking at what are the problems you solve for people? You see people struggling with something and you're like, oh, I could really help them. What is it that they're struggling with? What do they think the problem is? And then what is the actual problem? So if your job is transformation, it's just now a matter of looking at the before and after. What is their experience like before and what's the experience after? What are they struggling with? What are they thinking? And I will tell you, ChatGPT is really good for this. Like act like an expert on, and then whatever the category person you're working with, like a woman CEO who's also a creative who wants to market her business, whatever, like give the demographics. And then what is she struggling with? And then what does she want? And they'll give you a list of characteristics and traits there. And then you can go dig in a little bit deeper. But the transformation, ChatGPT is the thing, Michelle. The before and after is what you're looking for. Someone who is like and if you've gone, is the thing that you help people have transformation with something you've gone through yourself? So great. So this is the easiest way to do this, because if it's not something you've actually struggled with, it's just something you've always been good at, then it's not the same. But where were you 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years, whatever it is? What were you struggling with? What were the thoughts that you were having? What were the doubts or the problems that you had? And now what can you do? What do you do? And what were the steps to get you there? What did you not know that you needed to know? Essentially, what are the skills you had to develop? What are the habits you had to develop? And what are the environmental factors that had to change for you to get there? So that's basically what you're doing. What are the thoughts that had to be changed? You can use this SHE method on everything, friends. Everything. Okay. Any other questions? All right. I'm super excited to hopefully see you all at the Bold Becoming You workshop. If anybody sure they're coming, it's February 24th and 25th. It's from 9 a.m. Pacific to 12 p.m. Pacific. And it is so much fun. So much fun. And it's only $97. So make sure you get in there. Already signed up. Yeah, Amy. Yeah. And we will make sure that you have the nervous system regulation practices by the end of today. So you can start that right away. And they're little videos. They're like less than 6 minutes, most of them. And so you'll be able to just push play and try that nervous system regulation practice. And then you'll do the next one when you want to do the next one, or you can try them all in one day and really be chilled and calm. But it's a really great way for you to start practicing getting yourself to that calm place so you can take action on any of the skills, habits, and environment. And don't forget to check out the Boldly Becoming You podcast, which is where all this is coming from. That is a long time to fly. Just so you know, you'll have the replay for that too. If you wanted to watch it on the replay, you're welcome to do that. Yeah, you'll have replay for life. So whatever that is, you'll have that too. All right, friends. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so glad you had a good time. I'm going to be messaging you, see if you have any questions after this, but I appreciate you being here and hope that you got a lot of value out of this, and look forward to seeing you at the upcoming events. Bye, friends.